for the grand opening of KBLA.store for the best in new merch, gift ideas, books.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin, and I'm joined today by Professor Tyrone Howard of UCLA and Professor Larry Walker of Central Florida, University of Central Florida. Thanks to both of you for joining me again. Always a pleasure to see both of you. I want to start with you, Dr. Howard. Breaking news today. I was all set to come in and talk about these two horrific shooting cases involving individuals who found themselves shot just because they went to the wrong address. And then all of a sudden this earthquake legal news drops with Fox News settling that big defamation case brought against them by Dominion Voting Systems. What do you think of the settlement and the amount?
Yeah, the amount was consequential, over $700 million, but really this was about lies, deception, and misleading. I mean, Dominion was really, to me, to be applauded because of the fact that they knew Fox News was really not just standing by and being silent in the face of lies. They were promoting and manufacturing and putting out a host of misinformation about the 2020 election in ways that were just deeply troubling. And so the fact that I think their attorneys did not want to see this go to trial, they did not want to see the Sean Hannitys and the other folks, the Tucker Carlsons on trial under oath, that would have been bad. It would have been a terrible look because these individuals who stand by issues of integrity and moral righteousness would have been really on the hot seat to say that they were really helping to put out this false narrative that we've known for a long time. But what they seem to not understand is that there are viewers out there who put their faith and stock in everything that they say. And it was nothing but lies that continued to sort of promote this idea that the election was false and that Dominion was putting out false information, rigging the election in ways that was deeply problematic. So while there was a settlement, I personally, Areva, I was hoping that it had gone to trial. I wanted to see Sean Hannity on the stand. I wanted to see Tucker Carlson cross-examined. I knew this wouldn't go to trial. I knew Fox knew that the stakes were too high for it to go to trial. I thought, maybe I wish they would have settled even for a higher amount, something close to $1 billion. But, it is what it is.
Dr. Howard, 787 is like a 3/4 of $1 million. I mean, that's as close to $1 billion as you can get. And from a lawyer standpoint, that's like 70% of what they said the lawsuit was valued at. That is like a slam dunk on any day of the week. Those lawyers are some badasses for getting that kind of settlement. Yes, they were definitely saying it was valued at more, but this is 2/3 of the net profit from Fox. So this is, this is going to hurt them in the pocketbook. I wonder, and all my lawyer friends, Dr. Walker, we're all wondering, why did they let all of that damning information come out, rather than settle it earlier? Because even though we didn't get to see that brilliant cross-examination that I'm sure those lawyers would have done of some of those nighttime talk show hosts, I'll call them that rather than anchors, we got to see a lot of the internal workings of Fox, and we know they hate each other. They hate Donald Trump. They pretty much hate everybody and everything. So do you think the viewers of Fox, though, Dr. Walker, will say, maybe I better stop watching all these lies, or at least if I'm going to watch it, I'm not going to repeat it or perhaps not believe everything they say?
It would be nice if they didn't, but we know that's not the case. I think what's interesting about the lies that Fox tells, and when it comes to, you talked about the individuals that watch, many of their programs, early in the morning, midday, in the evening, Tucker Carlson, et cetera, is that it reinforces everything they already believe. And I think that's lost. People will talk about the lies Fox tells, but the reality is, if you look at the history of propaganda in this country, particularly when it comes to, because we know Fox tells a lot of lies when it comes to minoritized groups, you're being replaced. All this other language that is part of U.S. history when it comes to how they treat other, groups who are othered, it's consistent. So these folks already have certain beliefs that, once again, like I said, they've seen this mass demographic shift in the United States, and it reinforces all their fears and beliefs. So they're okay with the lies. They're still tuning in. Fox is number one, all day. And when it comes to compared to CNN, MSNBC, so these folks want to be lied to. But as we know, it's dangerous, and our democracy is heading in the wrong direction.
Well, let's talk about, who these people are. So we know Dr. Howard, yes, there's this great divide that they talk about in terms of, educated folks, non-educated folks. But I know a lot of folks who watch Fox who have multiple degrees. So it's not just all, folks without advanced education. Do you think those people who, have bachelor's degrees, have master's and other advanced degrees, they're going to understand that the judge in this case basically said, Fox, everything that Dominion has said you lied about, I'm going to instruct the jury that you lied about it. I mean, this was really going to be a case about damages and the prospect not just of economic damages, but punitive damages that it could have gotten into the multi-billions of dollars, because punitive damages are designed to punish, and they can be much larger even than what you can prove up in terms of your economic damages. But do you think some of those educated folks who get what happened and know that this was Fox literally, having to wave the white flag in defeat, they can spin it as many ways as they want, but you do not pay $787 million unless you have some serious liability. What are you thinking about those educated folks?
Yeah, this is the question. I think about every election, we talk about these quote unquote suburban moms who are swing voters in these elections. And I wonder, like you, Areva, if they will think differently. Part of my concern and my worry is that there will be folks who say, well, this was just a one-off, that this was just about the election, that this was just about Donald Trump. But Fox, on the other issues, immigration, crime, issues around Second Amendment, issues around, diversity, equity, inclusion, that they tell the truth on those matters. It's just a matter of the election is when they were off. Because at the end of the day, look, Fox has become, as you know, a multi-billion-dollar industry that has millions and millions of viewers who tuned in even before the election. I haven't seen any of the data post-election, but they feed into a segment of our population that wants to believe this narrative about, less government, less taxes, individual responsibility, those who are struggling because of poor choices and moral compass. That's the narrative that still exists in much of our country. So yeah, we cannot sort of buy this idea that this is just about poor folks in rural parts of America who subscribe to Trump. There are highly educated folks who are judges and CEOs and business owners and entrepreneurs and elected officials who college professors who get their information, who swear by Fox News because they promote a narrative that is really entrenched in much of the DNA of our country.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, they're back on the air already spinning it, and we know they're going to continue to spin it. Part of the settlement, they had to acknowledge that they told these lies. So what the lawyers, very skillfully did was to say, we accept the judge's ruling. So, some people are, splitting hairs about whether they are, in fact, admitting that they lied. That's enough. If you read the judge's ruling and his orders, it's clear as night and day that the judge said, you guys are lies. And like I said, appointed that special master to say, not only did you lie to the public, you came into this courtroom and started telling a bunch of lies. And I want this special master to investigate those lies because somebody may be getting fined, some lawyers may be getting disbarred. I think that was one of the catalysts for the lawyers to say, wait, we better get out of this courtroom because this is going from bad to worse quickly. And we should note, this is not the only lawsuit. There are other lawsuits pending against Fox, including this whistleblower who switched sides, who was a producer for some of the shows, and then who said basically the lawyers coerced her, made her say things that weren't true. She's got a huge lawsuit. So this is just the beginning. So Dr. Howard, you said in the billions. I have no doubt that by the time they get done settling all these lawsuits, which they will settle them now, it's going to be in the multi-billions of dollars. And we know corporations respond to big judgments. We can see it with tobacco companies, auto manufacturers. This is how we get companies to change. They get hit enough times. Many will end up in bankruptcy, like we see some of the big pharma companies. So these big settlements and judgments, they matter. We call them nuclear in the law. And they have a nuclear impact on companies. You can best believe those shareholders are going to want some heads to roll over at Fox as a result of this. Let's talk about these shootings, though. I mean, we were still grieving Ralph Yarl. Fortunately, he's home now with his family. He didn't die. He doesn't have, life-threatening injuries. Obviously, a very disturbing case. But then you pick up the paper, and here's this 20-year-old white woman shot in upstate New York because she did what we have all done. I mean, I can think about how many times I've driven into someone's driveway to either use it to make a U-turn or the wrong address because you can't see the right address. These women, they didn't get out their car. They didn't pull a gun, a knife. They didn't say anything to this man. They did nothing that was threatening. And he shot and killed this 20-year-old woman. What do you make of that, Professor Walker?
I'm kind of, Areva, when you were talking, and obviously this unfortunate, this individual's murder was white, but it's beginning me to think about fear. And I thought about Public Enemy's Fear of a Black Planet, actually. This level of paranoia that, and I think we certainly talk about Fox News, and I'd be curious to see if this individual was one of those people that watched a lot of Fox News, but this level of paranoia that a lot of Americans feel is, and then on top of that, we have the most guns per capita as any other country in the United States. When you combine, and then we just had a pandemic. So when you add all these elements together, you get what you're seeing is a powder keg. You have people who are shooting without asking questions. And let me add another layer to that. This is not New York State, but certainly, we're in Florida and some of these other states, Texas, et cetera, these lenient gun laws. We saw that we happened to Ralph and in terms of Missouri, in terms of stand your ground laws. So when you combine all these factors, it's unfortunate, but we're going to see more of this. But many people become desensitized, and then we have a segment of politicians, let's be clear, Republicans, who do not want to pull back when it comes to add red flag laws. We saw that our discussion in Tennessee and other states. Don't want basic protections when it comes to making sure Americans don't have to constantly deal with this violence related to guns. They don't want to do anything about it. In fact, some Republicans have said this is just something you kind of have to deal with. So I think it has to do with paranoia and too many guns in our society.
Yeah, Dr. Howard, the Republicans went to New York. Republican leaders went to New York yesterday to hold a hearing, try to intimidate Alvin Bragg. Mm-hmm. We're going to take our Washington, D.C. congressional hearing, and we're going to take it to your backyard. We're going to hold it in New York, and we're going to put on display how crime-ridden Manhattan is and how you should be, Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, focused on the crime in New York rather than this political witch hunt of Donald Trump. And, what's so appalling about it, one, they have no jurisdiction. Two, Jim Jordan, who was leading this, Broadway production, is from Ohio, and they say Ohio has a much higher crime rate even than New York. So it's like, if you want to talk about crime, go to your own state. But more importantly, they want to talk about crime without ever talking about the accessibility of guns in our society, as if crime just kind of happens. Like the only solution to crime is more police and, quote unquote, tough prosecutors, which we know there's no evidence to support that any of that reduces crime. But what do you make of that? Let's talk about crime, but never, ever mention guns.
Yeah, Areva, this is this country's obsession. It's fixation. It's just sheer love of the Second Amendment. And this idea that guns are just as critical to our existence as the First Amendment and our right to free speech. And I don't know, as much as we see, babies getting shot and killed in schools, if there's anything that will ever cause this country to really come to its consciousness and say this is not right, that there are more guns in this country than there are people in this country. But I want to build on what Dr. Walker said, because really, to me, it's not just about guns. It's not just about, people's fear and paranoia, but I always think that race is also part of this equation as well. And more particular, anti-Blackness that's a part of this equation. Because if you think about the situation with Ralph Yarl, you have a man who sees a young Black person at his door. Fear comes to mind, threat comes to mind. Let me eliminate the threat immediately. While we don't know in the case of the woman who was killed in New York what the details were there, but oftentimes in the psyche of many white people in this country, this fear of Black people coming to do harm to them is real. And I think even when you think about what happened in New York with the case of the case with coming after Attorney General Alvin Bragg, it's still another black man who's trying to do harm to us, and we have to put him in his place. We have to come and show him that he's not doing his job. We have to show him that he's stepping outside his boundaries. So when you put together this real toxic combination of racism and paranoia and fear and guns, it does not bode well for black folks. And this is just the ways in which it manifests itself. And I think that until we come to real grips with sort of why guns are not good for a civilized society and why racism and anti-blackness is not good for our society, we're going to continue to have this conversation over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, Ralph Yarl, again, just a miracle that he survived. He's home safe with his family. But, you know, the mayor of Kansas City, African-American man, he was so livid. He's like, look, it shouldn't take Halle Berry having to tweet about this kind of situation for it to come into the national conversation. And now, you know, these cases happen so quickly. The news has already moved on to Donald Trump. So, you know, it's already old news. And that's what happens. We get so desensitized because there's so many of these shootings, not to mention those kids shot at the Sweet 16 party. I mean, so we haven't even talked about those kids. Just so much violence in this country. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search. We are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head. Yeah.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for Black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of Black audiences are concerned about the lack of Black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the Black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% Black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black. Your Black. Your Black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580, covering news and breaking news first.
Breaking news here. We've been covering this every day since the trial began. USA v. MRT. The verdicts are in. The jury has found LA City Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas guilty on a number of counts.
Keep it locked to KBLA Talk 1580 for news and analysis about the things that matter most to you. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your Black.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station. KBLA.
I'm back and I'm talking with Dr. Tyrone Howard and Dr. Larry Walker. We are tracking today's breaking news, and some of the biggest news happening today is that $787.5 million settlement involving Fox with Dominion Voting Systems. And as I said earlier, this is not the only lawsuit that has been filed against Fox for the lies that it told in relationship to the 2020 election. Be interesting to see what Republicans do, how they try to spin this, how they, again, try to continue to support the lie that has been told. But for those of us in the know, and if you're listening and watching this show, you are now in the know. This is huge. And this means that Fox knew it did not have a fighting chance of winning this lawsuit, because you don't pay what amounts to about 70% of what they said the value of this lawsuit is. You wouldn't pay that in settlement if you thought you could win a case at trial. And more importantly, the judge in this case made it very clear that Fox had lied, that it was going to instruct the jurors that it had lied. It had asked a special master to look at how Fox had presented evidence to the court, because the court suspected that Fox had even lied to the courts. So probably won't do everything we want it to do or have the impact, to change Fox in its entirety. But I am pretty hopeful that we are going to see something change at Fox as a result of this settlement and the others yet to come. Talking about this just horrific news around shooting victims, this poor woman in New York, her and her friends pull into a driveway. She shot and killed. Ralph Yarl is shot in the head just going to an address his mom told him to go to. And then there was 4 kids. We didn't even talk about those kids, Dr. Walker, at a Sweet 16 party. This football star on his way, graduating high school. All lives matter. So not that because he was a football star, his was any more important, but just the young people taken away from us just too soon.
And as a parent, these are the kind of calls you hope you never get, because I don't even know how parents recover from that. And I know people who've had a child who's died as a result of gun violence, and it's tragic. And I feel for these parents, But Areva, is in part of our conversation, we're seeing this on regularity in the United States. We're seeing sometimes multiple mass shootings in this country. And so, and you highlighted earlier a few minutes ago about us moving on to the next story. This happens so much in the United States that we're probably, hours, not even days away from another, unfortunately, mass shooting. And once again, the question is, what are you prepared to do? And I think we've already got our answer from, how Republicans feel about that. And I got to say also, when the murders in Sandy Hook took place, and I thought, and Areva, I mentioned before, I worked on Capitol Hill. I thought that was going to be the moment that we would have some kind of comprehensive gun reform. And so we got nothing. So at that point, I said, wow, we're in for the long haul on this. And it kind of reminds me about, and I'm kind of comparing in terms of, it took a time for the society to kind of figure out what's right and what's wrong. It kind of reminds me of cigarette smoking for years and years and years and years. And then finally people, even after these warnings start coming out, say, okay, we finally have to do something about it. Suing these companies. And we know that gun manufacturers are exempt from lawsuits. I think that we should talk about that. But at some point, I'm assuming that people in this country will be fed up and then we'll finally do something about it. But I hope it's not 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, I agree with you. Change is slow. It's going to be very, very slow. But one thing we learned from the civil rights movement is you can't grow weary and, well-doing. You got to just stay on these issues. And you're right, cigarette smoking is a perfect example. Even car safety. We didn't have seatbelts in cars initially. It took advocacy to get to the place where cars were forced to do things that would make them safe. Cigarettes, we basically have crippled that industry. There are still some people who smoke, but I mean, nothing like, it was 30, 40 years ago. So I suspect we will get there. It's just so painful, though, as we go through. You said I don't even think it'll be more than 24 to 48 hours before there is another shooting, because it was the kids in Alabama. It was, Ralph Yarrow. It's the woman in New York. And I mean, and there's so many others that we aren't even talking about. So we don't even want to suggest that this is the totality of the list. It's not. And then you have Jalen Walker, Professor Howard, 25 years old, no criminal record, is a driver for DoorDash. Driving in Akron, Ohio, I don't know, some undisclosed traffic stop situation. We've seen it before. We've heard about it before. Allegedly, he fires a shot out the window, but at some point he stops, jumps out, and runs. And I think what's so horrible, if you watch the video, 8 officers fire more than 90 rounds. I mean, you could just hear pop, 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 pop. 46 times they shoot this young man. And the grand jury says no, they were justified because he had shot that, he had fired the first shot, they say, out the window, and that gave the police reason to believe that he was dangerous and, he could cause them bodily harm. They say he kind of made a move for his waistband, which I'm thinking, okay, you leave your gun in your car. You're running from the police. What are you turning around going for your waistband? Nothing's there. So I just don't even believe that. The body cam is blurry. There's some suggestion that maybe he was turning around to raise his hands and to surrender. But I was really upset about this grand jury not indicting any of those officers.
Yeah, it's beyond sickening. It's depressing. It's outrageous when you think about the fact that this young man, for 94 shots in about 6.5 seconds, 3 of the officers fired off at least 18 rounds. You just ask the question, what is the value of Black life? And I maintain that there's a larger conversation we need to have, Areva, about just the role of policing and traffic stops, because we hear so many of these awful cases occur when someone's being stopped for a tail light that's out, or for failing to signal, or for not having current registrations. I just think we need to begin to think seriously out of the box about what policing looks like, and do we get armed officers out of the work of stopping folks for traffic stops? Because there's so many tragic accounts that have occurred where people have lost their lives all in the name of something that's minor in the big scheme of things when it comes to traffic. This is Sandra Bland all over again, right? She fails to make a adequate lane change according to the officer, and the next thing we know, she's dead 2 days later. I just think it speaks to the manner in which there is this history of policing that's rooted in slave patrol. We have to find the bad people. We have to police the bad people. We have to control the bad people. And oh, by the way, the disproportionate number of them happen to be Black. And we've heard time and time again about someone reaching for their waistband or reaching for an officer's weapon or seeming like they were a threat. And over again, police officers get little to no punishment and retribution for this. And to me, people say, well, why did he run in the first place? I think what we need to understand, Areva, and what people who are not familiar with this cultural context need to be mindful of, even for those who are completely within the confines of the law, there is still fear and anxiety and worry and the real sort of threat that your life could end when you're in the hands of these people. So for some folks, the adrenaline rush can kick in and you were just trying to flee the situation. It's what happens when it comes to trauma is fight, fright, or freeze. Right. And for a lot of young people who see this happening, the flee part, I mean, it seems nonsensical to some people, but it makes a lot of sense to others because you're thinking, if I stay here, I'm putting myself in harm's way. So tragic situation all the way around. And this young man had just lost his fiance about a month prior. It's just a sad story. My heart goes out to that family.
Yeah, no, it's really tragic. Like I said, no criminal record, 25 years old, no evidence that he was violent or anything. Maybe just had gotten a gun, who knows, but you're right about these traffic stops. The problem is, Dr. Howard, there are 1,800, different municipalities, maybe 18,000, some huge number. I got to check that. Check that for me. I want to make sure I get this number right. But the point is, there are thousands of police departments around this country. And so they're all controlled, they're under local control. So even if, the Los Angeles Police Department enacts a policy or the California passes a law that impacts the law enforcement agencies in the state of California, that has no impact on Ohio, no impact on Tennessee, no impact on Georgia. So we don't have any national standards that police officers are held to. The George Floyd and Policing Act was designed to do some of that. Can't get out of Congress. So each of these police departments, they develop their own training, they develop their own systems, and they kind of decide what they do and what they look like. And I tell you, it's really scary when you think about how different they are and how you can literally go 10 miles in one direction and be facing a police department that either has a lot of training, a lot of empathy, and a lot of regard for Black lives, or one that has absolutely zero. And that's kind of where we find ourselves in this country. When we come forward, Dianne Feinstein has shingles, but she does not appear ready to resign from Congress despite pleas from her own colleagues. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search. We are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head. Yeah.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to...
All right, Dr. Howard, this is for you because this is your state, our state. What is our beloved Senator Dianne Feinstein doing by not resigning? Yet she's not going to work. The Republicans are not going to let the Dems temporarily replace her. So all of these important judgeships that Biden needs to fill are just stalled because they can't get out of committee because the Dems don't have the vote. They need her vote. Is she doing a Ruth Bader Ginsburg on us?
I hate to say it because Senator Feinstein has served this state longer than any U.S. senator in our history. And she's been a valiant champion for a lot of issues that we care about. But I think this is the time where she needs to put state ahead of personal sort of issues. And I also think we have to be careful here because there are some questions around, ageism and sexism. Strom Thurmond served in the Senate forever and no one ever asked him to step down. But this is critical for a lot of reasons.
Meetings? Let's start. And I'm the first to stand up for women and, people of color. So I'm sensitive to that. And I love Dianne Feinstein. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
But did the senator you just mentioned, did he have that issue where his party was being held hostage because
That's he did, and that's the difference here. And I think someone's got to talk to Senator Feinstein and say, look, this is about country. It's even bigger than California because of the razor slim majority that the Dems have in the Senate. But here's the bigger subplot, in my opinion, though, Areva. I'm curious. Let's say she does step down. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, has said, and he's on record saying this, that if he were given the opportunity to appoint another senator, he would make sure that it was a Black woman. And he did this after he appointed Senator Alex Padilla to replace the Vice President Kamala Harris. Right now, that person would seem to be Senator Barbara Lee from Oakland, who is running for that seat, but she's trailing behind, Porter and Schiffman. So, and that would give her a significant boost and a big head start on the 2024 election for that seat. But I do think at this point in time, someone has to talk to Senator Feinstein and say, this is the time. There's so many issues that are near and dear to our hearts that are hanging in the balance while she's missed over 60 votes in the last several months. That is significant. Some might consider it dereliction of duty. It's time to put state and country over personal preferences.
Yeah, what you don't want to do, I think, with a reputation like Dianne Feinstein is smear your own reputation because you stayed too long. And your allies now become your enemies, and you have your own party members calling for you to resign, saying you are being, an obstructionist. When I would love to see her retire and get all of her flowers and accolades, and we celebrate her rather than this kind of pressure, and hey, she's elected by the people. It's not about her. As you said, this is about the people, and the people need Democrats to be able to appoint those judges because we see these critical cases on abortion, on gun control. So many critical issues happen in these federal courts, and we know how the Supreme Court is stacked. We can't change that right away, but these district courts, Biden does have an opportunity to, appoint a huge number of judges who will have lifetime tenure. Mm-hmm. And those judges can play a really critical role in protecting our democracy and protecting our rights. And I just hope she hears that message. And to your point about the Black woman, what I've been hearing, Professor Howard, is that if Barbara Lee from Oakland is appointed, that there may be a deal struck where she would agree not to run for the seat. So she would serve the term out and wouldn't have that incumbent status. And then, she would just retire from that position. That's just rumor. So I'm not sure what happens with that. And we shouldn't assume that she's the only one on that list. I've heard folks like LA County Supervisor Holly Mitchell, San Francisco Mayor London Breed, our state controller, Malia Cohen. We have a bench of Black women who I think would be phenomenal in the U.S. Senate. And obviously Gavin Newsom knows that as well. So prayers for Senator Feinstein. Maybe she gets well, at least can go back and vote. I mean, if she's not going to resign, please, Lord, let her get well so she can go back to work. Okay, Professor Walker, we got to talk about Florida. Those Texas Southern girls, Black women went down there and won that championship in D1 cheerleading. That brought me some joy with all this bad news. But then I get this headline that Florida Governor DeSantis said he may put a prison next to Disney parks, obviously as a way to punish them. What's up with your governor?
So I'm gonna start this comment again. I'm going to Areva. I'm originally from Philly, so I just got to put it out there first. So shout out to my hometown. So as a transplant and not native Floridian, and also for a governor I didn't vote for because of this very reason, these issues we're dealing with. This fascination with Disney mirrors what his presidential aspirations look like. And that's DOA. He's got no shot at getting a Republican.
Small and petty, let's call it that.
Yeah, he's got no shot at getting a Republican nomination. And you're hearing your rumors and articles about donors now saying they're not going to give him any money because they're worried about, even Republicans are worried about his right-wing agenda. But listen, Disney's one of the largest corporations in the world. And he's already been outflanked when before he even the individuals he had nominated even took over the Creek committee, that they already made the changes that they empower Disney, give him all these responsibilities and leave the state with just fixing the roads. You got outflanked, take the L, and just move along. But he's fixated on this instead of focusing on the fact that he hasn't even announced he's running for president. And his poll numbers are tanking.
Yeah, he's so petty. So the headlines are Ron DeSantis prison next to Disney World ideal gets the treatment on Twitter. So, they're dragging him all over Twitter. And then Vanity Fair's headline says Disney sees Ron DeSantis prison complex threat and raises him a Pride Night extravaganza. So
they're trolling him.
Yeah, Disney is just, clowning them, saying, okay, build your prison. But in the meantime, we about to bring every LGBT, member in the country down to Disney in your beloved Florida, where you don't want us to say gay. And we about to gay it up all over Florida. Oh my God, it's so petty. This guy's not ready for prime time. He is not ready to be the president of the United States. And I hope that somebody is waiting in the wings in Florida, ready to knock him off his perch, because I don't even think he should be the governor of a state as, large and as important as Florida. So I know you're not a Floridian, and thank you for all.
I have to put it out there. I always got to put it out there. So,
all of the disclaimers. But real quickly, Professor Howard, George Santos, let me get that right. He say, look, I'm running again. He on a picture with some shades on, and he's looking all confident, like he ain't done nothing. So he's like, y'all can investigate me, you can talk about me, but I just filed my papers to be a second-term Congress for the state of New York. What do you make of this young man and his hubris?
I wish I had the air. I wish I had the confidence. I wish I had the kind of gravitas. I wish I had all the whatever he has to feel like no matter how many lies I've told, no matter how much y'all tried to drag me through the mud, I'm still going to continue to come forward and try to represent my state of New York. So my thing is more power to him. If the folks there elect him again, they deserve what they get, because even his own Republican members of the Congress have turned their back on him, have said he has no place in that body. And again, if his constituents elect him, shame on him. And what does this say about the state of our democracy when you can have that many lies coming out of the mouth of that particular congressperson and he gets reelected? God pray for us all.
Yeah, shame on Democrats, one, for letting him get elected in the first place, not doing their op research, not investing in that district so that they could defeat him. But if Dems aren't gearing up to take that seat back, you're right, shame on us. Because if a liar who says, yes, in fact, the guy's so funny. He says, I stopped lying. He said, yeah, I was a liar, but I don't lie anymore, which is the most comical thing ever. He's under investigation by everybody, the ethics committee, the in the House, Department of Justice investigating him. New York has some kind of investigation. So I don't know if he even survives, if he gets arrested, indicted or something before the actual election happens. But Democrats, I hope we are gearing up to take him out and take him out with a big victory, big margin. In terms of the victory. Thank you so much, Professor Howard. Thank you, Professor Walker. Always good to see both of you. Thank you for your brilliance, your insights on today's trending news. When we come forward, it is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, and at KBLA Talk 1580, we are acknowledging the millions of people that live with autism in this country, and we're talking about the warning signs, how to get a diagnosis, and all of these grown people, and I do mean grown, like 65-year-old people who are getting diagnosed with autism. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.